One of the things I hate about UK e-bike law is downhill, I'm going up to nearly 30 mile an hour, right? But if I need assistance, and that's legal, so I'm going downhill, but if I need assistance going uphill to get off the line, I'm allowed 4 mile an hour on the throttle with no torque, because they haven't worked out a way to get torque into 4 mile an hour legally yet, into the controllers. How stupid is that? That's like saying you can buy your granny a Stannah stair lift, but she's only allowed to use it coming downstairs. It's that ridiculous. And I have to be honest with you, it's time that we stop falling for this shit. This self-policing. I've had enough of it. I've spent nearly 5 years on e-bikes now, and I'm sick of these stupid, antiquated e-bike laws that, honestly, they've been put up by somebody that's never ever ridden an e-bike. You can tell a mile off. They've never ever ridden an e-bike. If they did, they'd know how dangerous it was to not have a throttle to get you off the line on a hill. In my case, I'm lucky I've got a torque sensor in this and it's not so bad. But to get 2.5 turns into a cadence sensor to get the motor to cut in on a hill with traffic behind you is dangerous. And I know what some of you are saying, buy a lighter e-bike, buy this, do that, do the other. And my reply to that is, why? You know, I've already got this. Why am I carrying down to idiots that obviously don't have a clue on how e-bikes work? Set off up this hill before, more than once. We've all seen, well, not set off, but ride up this hill before. So this is a torque sensor in the Engine Pro 2.0. Best e-bike that I've ever come across, best e-bike that Engway makes. And I've ridden a lot of e-bikes, friends' e-bikes, different makes, models. And this one always comes out on top. It's my favourite e-bike. So let's get it going. I'm in first gear, and that's reasonably easy, because I was on the flat back there. I wasn't on the hill, but now I'm coming up the hill. You need to understand that the law around this throttle thing is dangerous. If I was on a cadence sensor bike, I'd have struggled to get this bike going, even in first gear. It's ridiculous. And it's the start of what is the most stupid of the laws. Not having a throttle going uphill on an electric bike is dangerous. And like I said, it was a law made by somebody that's never ever ridden an e-bike. So yesterday, I wish I'd have filmed it because I was kind of busy doing my new Pro 2.0 build, but I did a ride around my estate up to 15.5 mile an hour, one using the throttle and one using just the sensor, the torque sensor. Which do you think got to 15.5 mile an hour first? Yep, pedalling. Pedalling got me there quicker. Your arguments against having a throttle that goes up to 15.5 mile an hour because it's dangerous is a moot point, because this makes pedaling even more dangerous. It really does. I think there was something like a second in it to 15.5 mile an hour, and pedaling beat it because you have control of the torque. As with the throttle, it's on a set program. And trust me, nobody's beating land speed records with these throttles. Biggest arguments against throttles? It's cheating. Cheating being number one. And then the other one, pretty much like cheating, is it's unfair. It's unfair. How ridiculous does that sound? It's unfair. This is a controller. In fact, I think this is the controller in one of these, right? 23 amp controller, restricted to 15.5 mile an hour. Restricted. Why is it that I'm self-policing myself? Because a copper can come up to me anytime he likes, test the bike all he wants and it's legal, and then take it away for testing to see if it's got a 750 watt motor, which is irrelevant, and then confiscate my bike. It's just an excuse to confiscate 90% of the bikes out there. This is a little electric cruiser that can go for miles. And technically right now, I'm riding it legally. But the law says, because it's got a 750 watt motor on the back, that it's illegal. Not knowing that it's the controller that says to you, well, it's illegal, it's got a 750 watt motor regardless of the controller. Again, a law made by somebody that had absolutely zero idea about e-bikes. Because it's just, if anything, it's annoying. It's just annoying. It's an annoying law. It's a useless law. Because the amount of people I see riding around on Saurons just negates the fact that anything's being done about anything. They can't catch them, so they don't bother chasing them. Me, on the other hand, they can just pull me over. And that's that. That's somebody having zero idea about how e-bikes are made. And they're quite simple. They're made up of a motor, a controller, a display, and an operating set of buttons, and that's it. That's the only difference between this and a normal push bike, and that it assists you because of the motor. It does not make this a motorbike. It makes this a push bike that assists you with a motor. It's got pedals. If you see somebody zooming around on what you think is an e-bike and it's got no pedals, it's not an e-bike. It's an e-moto. And this brings me to the next thing. When are the press going to stop calling e-motos e-bikes? Because they're not e-bikes. They have no pedals. Just like a motorbike, no pedals. It's ridiculous. The whole thing is absolutely ridiculous. So this brings me on to the next thing. You're allowed to ride these off-road unlocked any speed you want, right? Doing whatever you want with them. So if you want a bike that you can ride on road and off road, technically you have to buy two bikes. You have to buy one that's road legal, unlockable, and you have to buy one that you can unlock. Two separate bikes. How green is that? How green is that? Two e-bikes. So I haven't done this for the camera, this has just genuinely happened. My chain snapped. So that means now I've got to push my bike back home, which is 4 miles away. Great. Now, if I had a working throttle, I could get my bike home. Well, I don't, so it's tough titty. Great. Right. Wakefield, Trinity to my house, 4 miles. Fabulous. Luckily, I've got a brand spanking new Engine Pro 2.0, just what's setting up. and then we get back out. Brand new bike, 1 kilometre on it, which I've done to test the brakes. I've just inflated the tyres and we're going to go out on this one. This is locked at the moment, and I've just tried moving the bike on walk mode. Doesn't do anything. 4 mile an hour just doesn't do anything. So let's try take 2. I want to see if you can notice any difference in my riding style as a whole, but should be pretty much the same thing. This is unlocked, the bike before was locked, but you're not going to see really any difference in my riding style. The speed won't increase downhill, it'll be about the same. So here we go, downhill we go. Not using the throttle. There's no need to use the throttle. There we go. All downhill, no difference. Earlier I started the bottom on the flat, and I'm going to use the throttle now on the hill to show you the difference about getting started on a hill. Now, even though this is a torque sensor, it gets the bike going quite easily. But here's the thing, if you've got yourself a cadence sensor, doing 2 turns on that crank to get the thing going for the motor to cut in, it's just hard work, especially with a bike of this weight. And again, I hear your argument, buy a lighter bike. Why should I? It's like telling 4x4 owners to, buy a Twizy. It's not the point. Anyway, I'll show you what I mean about the throttle. So here we go. I'm not pedaling, and now I am pedaling. It's just to I've released the throttle, it's just to get the bike going. And it works really well. But as you can see, I'm having no problems getting up here pedaling once I get going. This is quite a steep hill. This is probably about as steep as the hill climb. So that's the point I'm trying to make. To be fair, it looks good in black. It really does look good in black. Can't wait to get those crown forks on it. But yeah, good looking bike. So here's the thing, you're all going to think, well, he's moaning about Ebike Law, what's the solutions? Well, I've got a few solutions. Let's start with helmets, making them compulsory. Because let's be honest, people are dying on these things because they're not wearing helmets. There's a few examples that I know about. There's that poor girl that died last week on a campus somewhere. And I'm guessing she wasn't wearing an helmet, and it also mentions some other guy from 2022 that died because he wasn't wearing an helmet. Let's make helmets on e-bikes compulsory. That's the start. Secondly, the e-bike throttle law. Well, here's the thing. I've got a driving license. This makes me proficient on the road with any vehicle, car, van, whatever. And I've also got a motorbike license, which pretty much irrelevant. This is about knowing how the roads work. So if you're over 17 and you've got a driving license, you should be allowed to have a fully working throttle on your e-bike. The reason I say this is because you understand how the roads work, you understand how acceleration works, you've driven a car, and you've been proven that you're proficient on the roads. So here's the thing. I know what you're all going to say, well, this isn't inclusive, blah, blah, blah. It's not meant to be. This is meant to be for people that are proficient on the roads. It's not complicated, and it's not meant to be inclusive. If you're over 17 and you've got a driving license, you should be able to have a fully working throttle on your e-bike. There's no excuses that I can think of that come back and say to me, yeah, but You're trusted with a 2-ton vehicle on the road to drive up to 70 mile an hour and above in some cases. You can be doing 0 to 60 in 3 seconds in that vehicle. None of it comes close to riding round on an e-bike, none of it. So any excuses that people have got that they want to put forward about, yeah but, there is no yeah but. I'm riding round on an e-bike right now. I've been driving for, well, 40 plus years. I know how the road works. What does this do? Well, it gets rid of the idiots. Because anybody that's riding around on one of these that doesn't have a driving licence, they get away with murder. There's no way of giving them points. That's if anybody turns up to court for it. If I get caught and I'm riding above the speed limit, I get points on my licence. I think that's fair. And while I'm at it, the speed limit needs to be up to 17.5 mile an hour. I know some of you are going to say, oh, it's too fast. And I know some of you are going to say, it's too slow. I think it's a good compromise. Because 15.5 mile an hour, after a while it just doesn't cut it. But 17.5 mile an hour makes you think that you're getting somewhere. So I'm doing about 17 mile an hour now. Let's go up a little bit more. Let's have a look. So I'm currently just doing over about 16 mile an hour, and it just feels that little bit more responsive, feels a little bit more pokey. I like that. It doesn't have to be 30 mile an hour, 40 mile an hour. Get a motorbike, I agree with that. But for something that's this, and I know you're all saying, if you're doing that, it's a motorbike. It's not a motorbike. It's not a motorbike. Stop calling this a motorbike. It's a push bike with pedals. It just happens to have a motor to assist you. Just has a battery operated motor to assist you. And just think of how many people this opens up the e-bike world to. You know, people with minor disabilities. They can use a throttle just for the mental health benefits of riding around on an e-bike. They need somebody in government to take a proper look at what e-bikes are and how they benefit people. They really do. They're life-changing. I always say, if you don't like e-bikes, fair enough, but if you're thinking of getting one, just get one. Just get one. Because they're life-changing. They just change the way you do things. I think the government's biggest worry is if too many people have these e-bikes, it'll change the landscape of the roads forever. Well, good. It's not a bad thing. I'm not giving up my car. I like my car. But I do like going out on these. And like I said, during the winter, I'm using my car, well, probably 70% less than I would during the winter, 80% less during the summer. So we know where we are now. My favourite spot. And if I have to be honest with you, if I'd have never got into e-bikes, I'd have never found this spot. So you'll see a lot of people down here on bikes today, be it analog or e-bikes or like this, just kids on bikes, and it's because it's just such a nice spot. If I'd never got into e-bikes in the first place, I'd have never have come down here. It's just too far away from where I live. And as for driving down here, trying to find somewhere to park, then sort of having a wander around, it's not about it how tired you get, it's about the time consumed doing it. I'd rather be out doing this than I would sort of sat at home in front of my laptop working, you know, just for the sake of living. It's just, this is my breakaway from it. And if you've seen my film on the mental health benefits of e-bikes, you'll understand that a little bit better. The fact that I get to go out and just have a break away from the desk, it's that. And for people my age, it's it's just fabulous. It's a day out and it's costing me the price of the electric. The other thing is we need to make riding on pavements illegal again. It's still illegal, but nobody upholds it. The amount of times, when I was in town earlier, 2 lads on a scooter on the pavement must have been doing 20 mile an hour. If anybody had walked around the corner, you know, it's just basic common sense. It used to be illegal to ride on the pavement. I believe it still is. But it's just ignored. I try not to ignore it. So if you see my videos, you see me going up on a pavement, it's part of a cycle track. It's very rare you'll see me going on the pavement for any reason. And then you can argue, well, you did it. Well, yeah, I did it. But it was a means to an end. You know, there was nobody about when I did it. That's the difference. M62 above us. Hard to believe that we've got this down here and that's the M62 we've just been under. So yeah, I mean, occasionally the police do a glut and they go after the delivery riders and the centres of towns riding round, take their bikes off them because they're all illegal. You know, they've all got working throttles. And while we're on the subject of delivery riders or whatever is it, Uber Eats or whatever, they should be made responsible for the bikes that their riders are using. And the only way to do that is make them supply the bikes. Because it's single hour contracts, that disconnect that they have between themselves and their employees should be made illegal. The only people it really benefits is like Uber Eats. They pay low wages for what they pay, or minimum wage. Single hour contracts. Poor buggers that are doing the job. You know, they're not making a fortune, but Uber Eats is, Deliveroo is. You got all this money. What should you be doing with it? You should be supplying the e-bikes they ride. And while I'm at it, there must be some sort of biometric system to unlock the bike so you know who's riding it. A lot of these Deliveroo riders, I'm using that as a generic term, you don't know who's riding that bike. You have no idea who's riding that bike. They can be riding it under somebody else's name. If they cause an accident, who was it? We don't have the same issue with cars, do we? If you've got a driving licence, your ident's on that driving licence and it's attached to whatever bike you want to ride, fine. But if you haven't got a driving licence, you need to have some sort of legal bike proof. It's complicated, but it's not complicated. If you simplify it by just making sure all these delivery riders are A, who they say they are, and B, riding a UK legal e-bike, it's all good. After talking to a few of them, they say they can't make any money on a bike that hasn't got an unlocked throttle. They just can't do it. They just can't get to the distances across London or Leeds, for example. The lads that I was talking to were in Leeds. And they all agreed they just can't make money doing it if they've got a locked throttle. It's a long day. It's a complicated thing in itself. But like I said, if they got a UK driving licence, they know the roads in the UK, let them have an unlocked bike. Let them have a throttle. Pretty much time to cut the bollocks, really, isn't it? I mean, we're being had over with these e-bike laws that benefit nobody that rides an e-bike whatsoever. Like I said, the throttle law's a joke. Absolute joke. Like I said, the only way to equate it is you buy a stand stair lift for granny and she's only allowed to use it going down the stairs. How stupid is that? I mean, the throttle law in itself is just stupid. And then let's look at the 750 watt motor law. Well, it's controlled by the controller. It's not controlled by the motor. The fact that the motor's 750 watt is irrelevant. Like I said, you need somebody that understands e-bikes to get involved with this. And nobody in government seems to have a clue. The police don't have a clue. They're pulling people off of e-bikes and confiscating their e-bikes for absolutely no reason. And it's just not fair. I mean, the solution to a lot of the problems with carbon in the UK can be solved with just getting people onto e-bikes. I know the electricity has to come from somewhere, but the miles per watt hour in comparison to a car is massive. If you're not using a car and you're using an e-bike, the carbon footprint's tiny. It really is tiny. I've been saying for a long time that governments should stop talking green and start walking green, because at the moment they're doing nothing that benefits anybody. And everybody's left in this limbo that's interested in e-bikes. I'll tell you the same thing. You know, they've all got confiscation anxiety. You know, my bike could get confiscated because it's this, or it's this, or it's this. I say start ignoring it. Just ride around sensibly and the police will leave you alone. They tend to do. You know, nearly 5 years of riding e-bikes and I've never once been stopped. But then I get lumped in with these kids that ride around on saurons. You know, antisocial behaviour. Well, that's not me. You know, these labels that we keep getting stuck with as e-bikers, and it's ridiculous. People are confused about buying an e-bike because they don't understand the e-bike law, and they're waiting for it to change. They're waiting for some sort of change before it happens, and then they don't have this confiscation and anxiety for spending what's essentially £2,000 on an e-bike. They're life-changing. They're absolutely life-changing. And I believe that if we were to put our driving licenses forward, and you know, if the police catch us doing something illegal on our e-bikes, we get points. I'm good with that. I'm absolutely fine with that. I know a lot of you say, well, no. Well, I'd rather that than have to get insurance and get the bike tested. There's no reason for that. It's a push bike with a motor. It's got pedals on. And that's another thing. The whole thing about the confusion between e-bikes, which are sort of like have pedals on, which is what I generally call an e-bike, and e-motos, which are saurons and pariahs and stuff, they all get lumped in together. Just read the Daily Mail. Pisses me right off. You know, every time you see e-bike robberies in London, it's never an e-bike. It's a talaria or it's a sauron. It doesn't have pedals on it. That's the giveaway. You know, these things are running massive watts, 5,000 watt motors, 6,000 watt motors. That's why they get chased through the centre of town and don't get caught. Because if it was a normal e-bike, they'd be doing 15.5, 16 mile an hour, and the police would just walk up to them and take them off them. Something's got to change. And I genuinely don't know what this change should be, but I do know that if nothing changes soon, it's just going to destroy the landscape of e-bike riders. Because we're all getting fed up with the same thing. You know, being sort of labelled as like these thugs on bikes, and it's not us. I think the biggest changes should be compulsory helmets, putting your licence forward. If you're over 17, you've got a driving licence, you can have a full working throttle, and then carry your driving licence with you when you're out on your bike. If the police pull you over, just say, I've got full driving licence, and you're allowed to have a throttle, a full working throttle. Because what I really don't understand is the fact that in London, I can go hire a scooter, ride round on the roads at 12.5 miles an hour using a throttle. I don't get that, because they're more dangerous than e-bikes will ever be. You know, 10-inch tyres. I'm not having a dig at the scooter community. I think what they're doing to you is wrong as well. You know, the fact that they're selling illegal scooters that people are using on the pavement in Alfords says it all. Because who buys one to use in the back garden? Who? Not me. I wouldn't buy one anyway, but I mean, I've got one in the garage at the moment to test, and it frightens the shit out of me, and it only does 16 miles an hour. Until something changes, we've got to stop falling for this bullshit. If I get my bike taken off me, I get my bike taken off me, but I don't have an excuse for the police to pull me over. I sort of hark back to that poor sod that got caught in London because he was on an Engway Engine X and he had a working throttle. And the police were just out and about looking for illegal e-bike riders. Well, go after the community that does it more regularly than anybody else. And I know it's a dig at the delivery riders again, but, you know, look at these pictures here. I was in Cheltenham a few weeks back filming, and I saw a guy going up the road, not pedalling, on a homebrew e-bike doing it. He must have been doing 30 because he was trying to overtake moving traffic. And the first time I saw one of these Anioki things, they're totally illegal. Here's the thing, if this was put down to controllers controlling the output, and the government recognised that it was the output from the controller that was giving the speed, we'd see a lot more e-bike companies selling in the UK. They don't sell here, and they don't sell in Europe for the same reason as most e-bike companies don't sell in the EU and the UK, because there's too many laws. But now even in California they're at it. You know, the what they call Class 3, which is the fastest of the e-bikes, they now have to have no throttle. You're not allowed to throttle with a Class 3 e-bike in California. How ridiculous. Who's in charge? I'd like to speak to who's in charge. I'd speak to I've already emailed the Transport Minister, the new one, a couple of times, and they're going to get a copy of this video, as is my local MP. Because you can't keep saying that you're trying to get to net zero and not doing anything about this. This is an obvious choice that you get people on e-bikes, and while they're still all sat around going, well, I don't know if I can buy one because I get complicated. While that's happening, you ain't going to get people on e-bikes. And as much as, you know, I've got people on my channel who agree with me and I've got people on my channel that disagree with me, the fact remains that while they're giving this Wallace and Gromit cast member billions to make what's essentially a mechanical tree that nobody knows if it's going to work or not, billions of your money, I'm lost for words. I really am, and that's rare for me. I'm lost for words. And until somebody sits down with somebody, I mean, the other problem is the House of Lords. You know, I saw somebody around where I live on an e-bike and they were going way too fast. Well, you sit there in your 90s, keep collecting your wage, and we'll all suffer because you're stupid and senile. That's how I see the House of Lords. I don't see the Houses of Parliament being much better. People just on the gravy train for the sake of being on the gravy train. They're not there for us. They're there for them, and they're there for vested interests. And the vested interest with e-bikes is the oil industry, motorcycle industry, British bicycle industry. They don't, I've already seen it. I can pull a link in. Actually, I will pull a link in to the notes that were one at the House of Lords and one that was the e-bike review. Brompton was there, and the motorcycle industry was there. Motorcycle Industry Association, I think it was. And some idiot that lives in the lakes that thinks she's got her 250 watt motor e-bikes, what everybody else needs, because everybody else weighs 9 stone and, you know, is on mum's net. Telling us. Telling us. We need to stop falling for this bollocks, and we need to start looking at getting it changed, because until it changes, we're all going to be sat in this limbo, and I'm not falling for it. Like I say, if I get my bike confiscated, I'll get it confiscated. But I'm not using a throttle. I don't need one. One of the great things about torque sensors is you don't need a throttle. It's virtually instantaneous when that motor kicks in. Could have done with one today, mind. especially after my chain snapping. But what are the odds? I'm going to do a video about UK bloody chain snaps. 4 miles I pushed that home. 4 miles. And I wouldn't have had to have done it if I'd had a legal throttle on me. So yeah, until we sort of stop falling for it, nothing's going to change. So I'm no longer falling for it. I won't have a throttle on my bike, but I'm not falling for the 750 watt motor bollocks anymore. It's just bullshit. And if we got past the fact that it's the controller controlling, and the government understood it's the controller controlling the output of the bike, we could have a lot more different e-bikes in this country. You know, companies will fall over themselves to get these bikes into the country. Right, it's restricted to 15.5 miles an hour. But here's the thing, you can unlock it. Well, if you unlock it and you get caught with it unlocked, you get points on your license. Fine, I'm good with that. And we could have things like these giant Anioki things, and these, actually they've got some really bad reviews, so that's probably a bad one. But I think it's a Mora, I'll pull it up. They've got some really nice bikes that got 60 ampere batteries in them. Their range. And if you're disabled or you can't go far, that thing could take you miles just on the throttle alone. And that will get you out of the house. These people that are just, I ain't going out, it's too painful to walk, this, that and the other. Get them on an e-bike. Get some mobility going again. It's, like I said, the mental health benefits. I know I keep going on about this. It's life-changing. E-bikes have changed my life. For the better, most part. Anyway, that's it for now. Next week, I'm in London with the Map 4 N1 Pro. I'm there all day filming. If any of you live in London and want to meet up at Trafalgar Square, give me a shout. The more of us, the better. It'd be nice to see some other Engway or any other e-bike riders in the centre of London. I'll be filming in London from probably 10:30 AM till around about 7 at night. So I'm going to be there for a long time. There's that. I'm going over the X20 again, and we're going to put it through its paces on the new protocol that I've got for testing e-bikes. Same with the Engway Engine Pro 2.0. It's all changed a bit since I first did my review, so it's still the best bike out there, by the way. And I'll put a link into that e-bike. It's very good value for money. It's just a brilliant bike. I'll get out on it as often as I can. I've ordered a new chain for the other one, so that'll be here tomorrow. Probably just shows how much torque's going through that chain. No biggie. Have a nice weekend, everyone.